Today we are going to talk about sexuality in aging. Sexuality is described as the basic maleness and femaleness of human beings, such as the thoughts, choices, and actions that define one as being male or female. This does not mean what we look like from the outside, but how we feel on the inside. So, if you remember back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, on those basic needs at the very bottom of the pyramid, sex was one of them. So, sexuality and other basic needs for belongingness, love, and caring will continue throughout our life, no matter how old we get. So, expressions of sexuality and other basic needs for belongingness, love, and caring may be physical and or psychological. So, they could be physical actions and or how we feel. These basic needs are met when the resident can both receive and give to others. This does not mean that all of your residents are going to be trying to go around from room to room to room and crawl in each other's beds because they are needing to express their sexuality. But this can be a simple thing as holding a hand, giving a kiss, things like that. So, love and caring are shown by words and actions, and touch can be a very powerful means of conveying caring. And this does not even have to be a sexual touch. It can be a touch between friends, it can be a touch between a resident and a CNA. Simply holding somebody's hand, patting their back, things like that can definitely convey caring without having a sexual overtone. So, sexual intercourse is just one of the physical expressions of sexuality. So, we can have other different expressions, such as what people, you know, look like with their clothes. You can have other physical expression, such as genital and non genital caressing or touching. So, those are the different things that how you can express your sexuality with physical expression. So, some different factors that are going to affect the sexual expression and the CNA's role in supporting the resident. Just think about the fact that society kind of neuters our elders. We view them as asexual. We think that, oh, well, they're old, they don't need to have sex anymore. And when you hear about the elderly people having sex, then some people tend to go, ew, that's gross. I don't want to think about old people having sex. Well, it's a reality. It still happens. Think about yourself when you get older. Are you going to want to just turn off the fact that you want to have sex? Probably not. So our residents are not going to do that either, whether or not that they can physically express that with someone else. So the CNA, how you're going to assist the resident, are going to be in basic tasks and not necessarily the things that we think of as expressing sexuality, but they do. So, helping the resident with grooming and in selecting attractive clothing how they like. So, if a woman wants to express her femaleness, maybe having her choose a skirt to wear, or put on makeup, or have her hair done. So, things like that. That's how you can help the resident express their sexuality. So, you obviously want to respect the resident's gender and maturity by using the resident's preferred name in communication. This is a very, very hard habit for some of us to not get into or to break, is calling residents honey or sweetie or sugar or something like that. If the resident likes to be called that, okay, make sure it's on the care plan. Otherwise, if they prefer to be addressed as Mrs. Jones, or if they prefer to be addressed as Wanda, whatever their name is, however they like to be addressed, that's what you should call them. And remember that referring to residents as boys or girls is disrespectful because our residents are not children. They are adults. And they have, a lot of them have lived a nice long life and they deserve to have respect with how you treat them and how you talk to them. So you want to compliment the resident on his or her appearance. This does not mean you have to lie or go out of your way and make this huge over the top gesture. You can simply, look at someone and be talking to them and just say, well, you look very nice today. That's it. That may make their day. They may not have anybody else that will tell them stuff like that. So absolutely compliment someone on his or her appearance and help them take pride in their appearance. You may have somebody that, they've never worn anything but sweatpants and t shirts. Great. If they feel good about it, then you should help them feel good about it. So, when the resident speaks of sexual matters, make sure that you demonstrate a willingness to listen without judgment. Just remember, you may come in contact with residents with different backgrounds than you. You may have residents that, maybe if you talk to them, if they ask how your boyfriend is doing, and you say, oh, well, we're doing great, we're going to move in together. They may tell you that you're living in sin. That's their opinion. So just make sure that you're willing to listen and don't judge them. It's their right to feel the way that they do feel, and not your right to try to make them feel different or make them feel bad at all. So, some physical changes from aging, chronic disease, and some medications may make sexual performance more difficult. So, you need to understand that physical sexual expression may remain an important need for a resident. And if you have any concerns, or if the resident brings any concerns to you, you need to report these to the nurse. Now, this may be physically expressed, towards other people. It may be expressed in private by themselves. However that's expressed for the resident, that's their right, as long as it's not infringing on other people and infringing upon other residents' rights. So be respectful of that as well. So the resident will have less privacy in long-term care. So having undisturbed space for the resident and guests, and drawing the curtain and closing the door to the resident's room will help provide that privacy however the resident likes it, and as long as it's safe for them, and as long as their care plan that they can have the door open. So absolutely, before entering, the CNA will knock on the resident's door for permission to enter. This does not matter what you are doing, what the resident is doing. It does not matter. Knock every single time and announce yourself. That way the resident is not caught surprised when you walk in the door. So keep in mind that a lot of our residents are older, and that their spouse or partner may no longer be alive, and that there's less opportunity to establish a new close relationship with others. So they may have had their spouse for 50 years, and now that person has passed away, and they have not established a new intimate relationship with anyone. And it's a lot harder for them to do that in a facility, because a lot of people are so focused on what people can't do rather than what they can. So the resident may use self-stimulation or masturbation and continue what may have been an outlet during their earlier part of their life. Because think about it, if they are moving into a facility or have been at a facility, they're probably going to want to continue the same things that they did at home in the facility. Sex is no different. And if that person does not have a partner available, they may be self-stimulating, and that's all right. So we want to make sure that we respect that person and give them privacy. So understand that the physical expression is the resident's choice. So if they decide that they want to make that physical expression, provide privacy for them. Maybe move them to a private area. And if the resident does begin to masturbate in public, then you can shield other people from viewing, because that may infringe on the other residents' rights as well. But do not give any critical comments to the resident. Offer to take them back to their room, to the bathroom, wherever it is that they would like to go that's in private, so that they can continue their activity. So you always want to support friendship between residents and between the resident and others from the wider community. Now, this does not mean that you're going to be pushing, someone in a wheelchair from room to room if they want to do that, but you want to promote those relationships where they do, make friends with other people in the facility, or have their friends from the outside community. So, some residents are unable to consent or unwilling to participate in sexual activity, and this is absolutely a personal choice for those residents. So, some of your residents may have dementia and they may not understand what's going on and can't give informed consent for that. They may go along with it and think that whatever the other person is doing is okay, but they may not understand exactly what the person is doing. On the flip side of that, you may also have the person that is instigating that doesn't know what they're doing. That they may be trying to have, sexual relations with another resident, and maybe they themselves have dementia. And the other resident tells them, "No, I don't want to have any sex with you. I want you to leave me alone." Well, the person with dementia may not understand that. They may think that's their wife, and they may not understand, well, why is my wife turning me down? She's never turned me down before. I'm going to keep pursuing this. And if the other person doesn't want it, it's sexual abuse. So that is a violation of the law, and it needs to be stopped. So not only can other residents be perpetrators of sexual abuse, visitors and staff members have committed abuse as well. So think about your residents. They're vulnerable. They're in a position of, needing to consent for other people to help them. So they may feel like if someone else is advancing on them and wanting to have sexual activity with them, they may feel like they have to because they want to be taken care of. They want to be, to have all of their needs met. And so they may feel like that is the only way to do that. That's not okay. That is not okay for somebody else to force themselves on a resident. So if you suspect any type of sexual abuse or you see anything, you need to report this to the nurse immediately. Absolutely immediately. Stop what you're doing and go report it. So, when it comes to managing different inappropriate residents' comments or actions, just remember that, especially with dementia, dementia will cause changes in the resident's behavior, sometimes including inappropriate sexual comments and actions. Now, when we get into our dementia chapter later on in the course, we'll really, really talk about it. But basically, what happens is the kind of forbidden area in the brain, all of the curse words that you learned and all of the things that your parents said, well, don't ever say that to anybody, that's terrible. All of that stuff is the only thing that's intact in the brain. And your filter is gone. So people that normally would think about what they want to say and, formulate their thought and, well, maybe I shouldn't say that because that's not very nice, that part's gone. So then you'll have people that are going to be blurting out different curse words, calling people names, and saying different inappropriate things. And they might also decide, ooh, that CNA's butt looks good, I'm going to pinch it. Or they might try to grab your breast, or they might make inappropriate comments to you. So sometimes we think of this as kind of being, oh, well, they're just being a dirty old man. Not to say that women can't do this too, but that's what we kind of typically think of. Not necessarily. Some people may know exactly what they're doing, but a lot of people with dementia really don't. They don't know that that's not okay to be doing to somebody else. So just remember that this behavior is a manifestation of the disease, not of the resident's character. So you may have the person that was a fine, upstanding pillar in their community. They did volunteer projects, never spoke an ill word about anyone, was so nice and so just wonderful person. And now they've turned into somebody that likes to pinch the butts and grab the breasts and make inappropriate comments and try to get you to do things to them. That's all part of the disease of dementia, unfortunately. So if this happens, then you can firmly and calmly tell the resident that the behavior is inappropriate. Don't slap the resident's hand or scold them or, yes, we want them to stop the behavior, but we don't want to make somebody feel bad because remember, they're still adults and they really don't know that this is wrong. And even if you tell them, sometimes they still may not understand. So you may want to distract or redirect the resident. Give them something else for them to do. If they're one that while you're changing their brief, they like to reach out and pinch something, give them something to hold on to instead. Roll up a washcloth and put it in their hand while you're doing that incontinence change. Talk to them while you're doing that. Distract them for that. So provide an activity that the resident likes. Maybe they're bored. That's what they have left to kind of hang on to, is trying to do those sexually inappropriate things, but they think, well, this is what I want to do right now, so this is what I'm going to do, and that filter is gone. So you may need to find something else for them to do. Puzzles, listening to the radio, see if they want to read a book, see if they want to go outside for a few minutes, whatever it is, find something for them to do. Work with your activities department, work with your social services department, see if there's volunteers that come into your place, see if there's any kind of group therapy exercises, just something to keep the resident kind of occupied and busy. You may want to move the resident to a different location. If that resident keeps trying to grab onto another resident, and they, are making unwanted sexual advances towards another resident, you may need to move them. You may need to have them move to a different wing of the nursing home, or just move off the campus completely. That may be something why they would need to leave the facility, is if they cannot or will not control their urge to reach out and touch someone unwantedly. So you may possibly leave the resident if it's safe to do so and return a short time later. So say you are getting the resident ready to get dressed for the day, and you've already changed their shirt, they've got a fresh brief on, and now they're starting to try to reach out and grab you. Then that may be a time to say, okay, I'm going to leave for a little bit. I'll come back in about 20 minutes and we'll put your pants on and I'll help you get up for the day. Or 10 minutes, however long. Just to kind of give them a breather and let them kind of hopefully think about why you're wanting to leave, and just definitely let them know, I'm not okay with this and I'm going to leave, and I'll come back and we'll try again. So observe for patterns of inappropriate sexual behavior to understand what might trigger. Sometimes when you are giving a bed bath, what might trigger is getting the person completely naked, totally exposed. That may trigger those inappropriate sexual behaviors. Yes, you still have to clean in that peri area, and you still have to get everything freshened up in that area, but that does not mean that you have to completely expose everything all at one time. So maybe that would be a good thing to maybe leave the brief on until you're almost finished with the bath, then have a towel covering the rest of it, do the peri area, and then move on and see if that would help. But try to find some kind of trigger that might have that pattern of the inappropriate behavior. And absolutely report the event and your observations to your nurse and document. Because this may be, these sexual behaviors may be a side effect of medication. They may need medication for this. They may need to have some of their medications altered. They might need to have some kind of counseling if they're not having dementia, or something going on with that. So definitely report those events and the observations to the nurse, because if you have a resident that is making these unwanted sexual advances towards you, especially when they know what they're doing, they continue it, they do not want to stop, they don't care, that may be a reason why that person needs to leave your healthcare facility. Having that documentation is going to back up the reason why it's appropriate for a discharge. Because we can't just say, well, we don't want you to live here anymore, you need to leave. No, there needs to be a clearly documented reason, because people can appeal. So they need to make sure that all of the things that have been going on, or whatever it is, can go back to a facility policy and show how the person is violating that facility policy, for the residents. What kind of rights they may be violating for other residents, or what kind of guidelines they may be violating. So that's it for our content for sexuality and aging. I know that's kind of short, but we will have some scenarios and kind of figure out what you would do in different situations. But please contact your instructor if you have any questions, and have a great day. Thanks.